Right, this is the very first steaming of my new Mamod SP8 James Watt beam engine. This one only arrived today, and after careful setting up in terms of lubrication, filling the displacement lubricator, I've now got this one heating up. I'm using solid fuel. I've put 4 wax tablets into an old SE3 burner tray, so I want to keep the original burner tray unmarked, and this one should be just about ready now, I would have thought, and it seemed to be self-starting, so probably a little bit of water in the pistons, but we'll just get that little lot out. And we'll see how this fella actually... And there we have it. For some people, this new beam engine maybe runs a little too fast, but I think you're going to need a bit of power if you want to turn a fairly sizable workshop. I'll just take this down to a slower speed. Obviously this engine is nowhere near running at the moment, so consequently it's probably going to take some time to actually to be a little bit smoother starting and a bit smoother running. And I say it's really straight out of the box, bar from oiling the linkages, filling the displacement lubricator. Sadly the flywheel still seems to be a little bit wobbly. I think Mamod need to sort that out, and I've noticed on the sides of the firebox that needs a little adjustment. It doesn't seem to be fitting exactly as level with the actual cutout on the base. Apart from that, a few stylistic issues about the flywheel, the sides. It all seems to be rather nice. It's got exhaust to chimney, thank God. The SP5, or the Mark II SP5, didn't have that and made a tremendous amount of mess. And essentially, this is a vast improvement. There's a lot of new parts in terms of the engine mounting and the actual beam itself, which is like a laminated sort of sheets of mild steel, I presume. If you open this right up, it really does tend to run away with itself. A little bit too fast for a beam engine, but if we just take it down to a slow turnover, it makes a pleasing sound. It's running a slip eccentric behind, which is controlling the steam chest here. It's a shame that this lever here, for some reason, is right over the top of the boiler. I might need to adjust the little securing nut there to make that a little bit easier to turn. There doesn't appear to be any leaks coming from the engine. The sight glass, although it's on slightly skew with, is not leaking. The boiler itself should be fine because that looks to be silver soldered. And you know, overall, I think it's a really different toy. This really will sort of expand, I think, Mamod's range in terms of maybe just nudging the undersides of the actual model steam area, you know, for younger enthusiasts. I'm very much a toy steamer. I'm not interested in models. I'm not interested in things which look like the real thing. They hold no interest for me. However, this has all the charm of all the earlier Mamods. It's a very attractive toy. It's still resplendent in the SP colours of blue and red, and I think it really will appeal to younger collectors. Sadly, the base plate doesn't have enough holes really for Meccano, but that's easily rectified by drilling some. I haven't tested whether these holes are Meccano spaced apart, but if not, they could be reamed out and a bracket fitted onto here for something to drive onto, even here as well. Like I say, this particular engine is running on solid fuel, so it does make a bit of an unpleasant smell in there. You can see the cutout here for the gas tank, but I'm not particularly interested in gas firing. A little bit too modern, and I don't consider it to be that safe, to be honest. But say the displacement lubricator feeding into the double-acting piston is an extremely good idea, and say the engine runs at maybe an overly high speed. If I open this right up, you can see straight away it's almost like too much. But as you can see, it runs particularly well. It should be able to drive a fair amount of tools, I would have thought. The flywheel is an SP5 size flywheel, and say it's a shame they couldn't quite got that right, really, because it's a little bit too sort of wobbly and causing the engine to actually vibrate around. But on saying that, it does seem to run extremely well. There's quite a lot of power in that, actually, I have to say, and you know, it really should be able to run fairly big workshops. It's nice to see the steam coming out of the chimney. There is a hole underneath the fire, the extra smoke box, so the water will drip out. But as you can see, it really does deliver the goods in terms of power. Maybe a little bit too fast. I could probably find that this is probably overfired with 4 tablets in there. That's very small wax type ones. You know, I just wanted to see what we could actually get out of it. There's very little mess on here because obviously the displacement lubricator takes care of that, whereas the older SP5 or the SP5 Mark II spewed out emulsified oil and water everywhere, and it was just not as refined as it could have been. Certainly not as refined as the Malin's designed SP5 of 79 to 85. If I turn this little fella round, we can see it from a slightly different angle. I'll certainly adjust this because it's a little, my hand is right over the firebox there. With running in, I'm sure this can be throttled right back, so it's literally turning over very slowly. Wide open, it really is just, it's too much. So you'll probably need bolting down so that it doesn't run away with itself. But overall, I think they scored a success here. It's very brave of them to actually make a model which is radically different to what they've done before, and so they should be applauded for that. It's very much a toy, it's not a model, but that said, it's a very attractive engine. Sits on the same size base as the workshop and the SP4. Keeping costs down, using the same tooling for that. There are a lot of new parts in it, certainly in terms of this. The boiler, firebox, smoke box, and the actual piston assembly itself is all standard. But I have to say, after initially seeing this being demonstrated on their website back in May, I was extremely surprised to see this, and by all accounts they seem to be looking at building or putting together a marine engine now, which is good on them, I'd say. Finally, you can see the engine's put together with a mixture of pop rivets and nuts and bolts. The boiler firebox housing is held in place by sort of tab and slot setup, and taking a very closer look at the engine, it is extremely well made. I say there's just a few minor issues to deal with, and I say it will be spot on. This one at the moment has a blanking hole there, so there is a space to actually put in a whistle or a pressure valve should you actually want to do that. The safety valve itself is set to go off at 40 pounds per square inch, so the boiler, which is tested to twice that pressure, shouldn't cause any problems whatsoever. This one's starting to come down to the end of its run, which has been probably about 5 to 8 minutes now, somewhere around there, and I have to say I'm quite impressed by it. I really am. I put my money where my mouth was. I saw this being shown back in May and thought, yeah, very nice. A lot of people came in some criticisms from some individuals. At the end of the day, if you don't like it, don't buy it. It's as simple as that. I would say anyone who's an avid Mamod collector will certainly want to put one of these in their collection. Well worth it. I say the dry steam or the dry fueled version, which this is, retails for around about the 260 mark, and the gas fired one I think is around about 325, something like that. So overall, extremely good value. By far and away the most fun you'll get out of a beam engine, and I would say you know, worth trying it with a goodly assortment of tools. It's certainly got the power to do it. Make sure you clamp it down first of all, and it'll be interesting to see what we actually see out there in terms of the engine running and sort of driving other workshop models. It certainly can be adapted for Meccano. I certainly might be thinking about doing that, and overall I would say buy it.